Hi, and welcome to the second video in the series on how to speak English like a native speaker. I'm Adam and I teach IELTS preparation for IELTS Pro here in Brisbane. If you haven't seen the first video in this series, I recommend you go back and have a look at that first, because everything we do in this video and in later videos is built on the foundation of what we talk about in that first video. So you really should watch that first. If you have seen the video, then welcome to the second video. Also, if you have any questions, anything you want to know, please feel free to ask in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer anything that you ask. But let's get started on video 2. So last video we looked at how we connect syllables together to make our speaking much smoother. But the question then arises, what happens if one syllable ends in a vowel sound and the next syllable starts in a vowel sound? Do we do anything to connect those together to make it smoother? Well, the answer is yes, we do. So let's start by looking at just one word. That word is here, pronunciation. Now, when I was teaching English in China, I noticed a lot of my students would say pronunciation, pronunciation. And I thought, that's a little strange to me. It's not how I pronounce it. So I asked myself, what is the difference between how they were saying it and how I would say it? So they were saying pronunciation, and I say pronunciation. It's a very subtle difference, but it's those subtle differences that make the difference between native English speakers and second language speakers in most cases. So what is the difference between those two? The difference is when we go from the E in pronunci to the A in ation. What non-native speakers do is they separate those two sounds. They pronounce pronunciation, pronunciation. But what native English speakers do is we actually add an extra sound that makes it smoother. So instead of saying pronunciation, we actually add a y sound and it becomes pronunciation. Because when we go from E to A in our mouth, it's difficult to go E-A quickly and smoothly. If I don't add an extra sound, it's just E-A. Notice how it's very jumpy, E-A. But what we do as native speakers is we add this y sound before the A. So it becomes E-A. So we can actually transition smoothly from E to A by adding the y, E-A. So instead of pronunciation, it becomes pronunciation. So that's something that we do with a lot of different vowel sounds, particularly when the syllable ends in a vowel and the next one begins in a vowel. So what is the rule? How do we know what sound to add? Well, there's a rule. Have a listen to this word. This word, fluent. So the word fluent, the first syllable ends in oo, the next syllable starts with goes flu, and the second syllable is unt. Together, however, we don't say fluent, we say fluent. What is that extra sound I'm adding there? I'm adding a W sound, a W sound. So go fluent, fluent. So the sound is not like flu and unt, it's like flu and want. So remember in that first video we talked about how we like to begin our syllables with a consonant sound. Well, this is a way of doing that where there is no consonant, and it also helps us in the way that we move our mouth to make a smooth transition from one vowel to the next. So for influent, we add a w, fluent. In pronunciation, we add a y, pronunciation. So how do we know which one? There is a rule. So today we're going to be looking at the sounds A, E, I, O, and U. Now, I'm not talking about the letters A, E, I, O, and U. I'm talking about the sounds. That's A as in say or play. That AY in those words makes the sound of A. E as in B and B. Notice here, the words sound the same, but they're spelled differently because we're not talking about the spelling, we're not talking about the letters, we're talking about the sound, E. Then we've got I, as in the words buy and buy. Two different words, two different meanings, two different spellings. And notice there's not even the letter I in the words, but there is the sound I, either represented in this case by the Y or the UY. Next sound is O, as in no or as in no. And then finally U, as in flew and flew. All right, so we've got A, E, I, O, and U. How do we then transition from those sounds to another vowel sound? What do we do? So let's start with A. Look at these words. Play on words. So if we were to pronounce them separately, play on words, that's fine, but native English speakers wouldn't say play on words. We would say something different. So play on words, play on words. So what's the sound we're adding there? We're adding a y. So if the sound that the first syllable ends in is A, then we add a y to the beginning of the next syllable. So it becomes play yon, play yon, play yon words, play yon words, instead of play on words. That's not smooth, it's not native, it's not fluent. Play on words? No, play on words. All right, so for A sound, we add y to the beginning of the next syllable. What about E? Well, that you will probably remember from pronunciation. So what did we add to that ation? We added a y. So pronunciation. So for E, we add a y to the beginning of the next syllable if it begins with a vowel. All right, so that's A, that's E. What about I? What do we do there? Let's say fly away. By itself, fly away. But together, fly away. So what is the sound we're adding? Again, we're adding y. So for A, E, and I sounds, we add y. So we're saying fly away, fly away. Notice then when I say it together, fly away, fly away. It just runs together. And this is probably one reason why when you're watching movies in English or listening to music in English, listening to people speaking English, you find it really difficult to catch the words. Because we don't separate those words clearly, we're actually connecting our sounds together just like that. Fly away, not fly away, fly away. All right, so that's I, A, E, and I. What about O? Oh, notice when I say O, my lips do something different. Instead of y at the end, listen to A, you can hear there's a bit of a y at the end. A, E, I. But O, there's a different sound. What is it? W. It's a w sound. So for O, I might say, I know a girl. I know a girl. But run it together, it becomes I know wa girl. We add a W sound, a W sound, to the So it becomes I know wa girl. I know a girl. I know a girl. And finally for U, what do we add to that? Well, you would remember fluent. So fluent, U and we add W. So for O and U sounds, we add W to the beginning of the next syllable when it begins with a vowel. So I know a girl and fluent. So it's a bit of a strange thing to think about at first. When you're not used to it, you probably feel quite unnatural doing that. But I really encourage you to start looking at sentences, full sentences. Write down sentences and see if you can find places either inside the words or between the words where you are moving from a syllable ending in one vowel to a syllable beginning with another vowel. and think about how a native English speaker would pronounce that sentence, particularly in those places where those words connect. So let's look at some sentences, some complete sentences, and using what we've learned from video 1 and from this video, let's try to make it more natural, make it more like a native English speaker. All right, so you'll remember the first sentence from our first video, and that is this one. I'm a big ugly elephant. Now, we looked at how we connect the big and ug together becomes big gug. Okay, that's good. We did that in the first video, so we're cool there. I'm a big gug. And then glee, big gugly, big ugly. But notice here, at the end of ugly, what is the sound at the end of ugly? It's E. It's an E sound. And then the next syllable is L for elephant. So we got E, E, E. So we didn't talk in the first video about how a native speaker would actually go from ugly to elephant, because we're actually going to add an extra sound to make the transition smooth. So what are we going to add? What was the rule? For A, E, and I, we add Y. So we're going to add a Y sound to the beginning of elephant. So it's going to become I'm a big ugly yelephant. Yelephant. Add that Y. So I'm a big ugly yelephant. And then running it all together, making it smooth, I'm a big ugly elephant. I'm a big ugly elephant. That is actually how English speakers can pronounce English so quickly and so smoothly, because we're adding these extra sounds that help us transition between the vowels, and we're connecting those consonants and vowels together as we talked about in the first video as well. So let's look at sentence number 2. Why am I here?
You know, that's a really good question.
All right, so what are the words? Why am I here? How would a native speaker pronounce this sentence together? Well, why. What's that syllable? Y ends in an I sound. Yeah? Next syllable, am. All right, so we're going from I to at. I at. We're going to add a Y. So yam. Now remember from video number 1, consonant vowel. We want to connect consonant with vowel together. So it becomes Y, ya, my. We're going to connect the M from am to the vowel of I. So Y, ya, my. And then finally, here is going to be by itself. So why am I here? Not why am I here? Why am I here? It's not smooth, it's not natural, it's not like a native speaker. Why am I here? That is how a native speaker would say it. Now, of course, there may be small differences in the pronunciation of the individual vowel sounds, depending on if it's American or British or Australian or Canadian or whatever English. But generally, those extra sounds and the word linking is going to be the same no matter what. So, why am I here? Why am I here? If you hear that and try to hear the individual words, it's very difficult. Why am I here? It just sounds like one really quick word. Why am I here? Why am I here? But that's because we're doing that word linking and adding those extra sounds. Now, those extra sounds we call glides. Glides are sounds like y and w that we add to transition smoothly between individual vowel sounds. So the rules again, for A, E, and I, we add y to the beginning of the next syllable if it starts with a vowel. And for O and oo sounds, we add w. All right, so I think that's plenty for you to think about for this video. What I recommend you do is just watch some TV shows or movies. Just watch a little bit and listen for the ways that the speakers are actually doing this. And you'll find that Actually, it's something we do all the time. There is not really a time when we don't do this. So it's a really important thing to get a hold of if you want to make your English speaking really natural. All right, so I think that's enough for one lesson. So this is the end of video number 2. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video if you found it helpful. In the next video, video number 3, we're actually going to extend on glides to look at glides with different vowel sounds. After that, we're going to start looking at changing words that non-English speakers use, but generally English speakers, native English speakers rarely use in real life. And we're going to look at other things to make it much more natural sounding when you speak English. So hang around for that. Subscribe, hit the bell if you want a notification when the new video drops, and I'll see you in the next video.